Yeah, just, going back off the game this past weekend, just got in a big of a hole there in the beginning of the game. Offensively, first couple of drives didn't get anything going. You look up, you're down 14. And, obviously, would like to have done some better job defensively, keeping them out of the end zone. Thought, our kids continue to fight, which is watching the film, it was obvious. And we were down 21. We ended up coming back, making it a 7-point game. And then second half down 17 and came back within one score. And, very easily could have quit, laid down, particularly with the adversity we faced Saturday before the game. And, I was proud of the way the guys continued to fight and keep coming back. And came back last night, had a good practice. Guys, pretty good spirit. And then, of course, today is going to be different for us. We just got to speed up our game planning because we are meeting this evening and practicing tonight. Since tomorrow will be the day off this week. And then Wednesday moving forward will be the same for us as we move forward for the game on Saturday.
Start with Cameron.
Hey, Scott, Cameron from the Courier-Journal. I know Saturday, like you said, you found out pretty early you were going to miss a bunch of guys. Any update on kind of the COVID situation there? And do you feel like it's an isolated issue where you don't think you'll have more problems coming up throughout the week?
Well, that remains to be seen, as we all know how this virus works. We ended up having one positive on Wednesday. We isolated some guys with that. And then, Friday, of course, we get ready to go, and we got the testing that we do. You don't really find those out on Friday until in the nighttime. And we actually found out a couple of guys were positive on Friday night, which in return, you start with the contact tracing, so you end up getting some more guys. And so, that's kind of how it all went down. We found Saturday morning, as the guys get up to eat breakfast, we got guys isolated. We're taking them out and those type things, which so happened to affect the defense, as we all saw. A lot of our defensive line was out. Of course, Monty Montgomery and Isaiah Hayes. And, so with that, those guys are going to be out. They're going to be out a couple of weeks with the protocols. If you're contact traced, you're out 14 days. If you do actually have the virus, then you actually can come back a little bit sooner once you go through the protocols and, get all your testing done that you have to get done with that. So we'd anticipate all those guys that missed last week that will miss this week as well.
Ken Spencer.
Yeah, Scott, just the fact that you guys had hours to prepare for a game with all these guys out, will it make a big difference to have at least a week knowing who you at least have, to suit up against Virginia on Saturday, even though some of those guys that were out are obviously big key contributors on defense?
Yeah, it makes a difference, obviously, because you can work more guys. Now the guys we're going to be working are guys going to be more, obviously, less experienced. Maybe guys that hadn't played a whole lot, and even some young guys that hadn't played hardly at all. Will be getting reps this week at practice. So that, in that sense, yes, it helps. When you look at it, you essentially have around 5 starters that are unavailable. And that hurts. You don't have as much depth to begin with when you have all your guys, and then you take those guys out. So now, you're playing guys with experience. So, so guys are going to have to step up. We're going to have guys that really hadn't played a ton to go out there and play. And I thought our guys did. I think the guys that went out and played that hadn't played a lot of reps, Derek Dorsey, Zach Edwards, those are guys that maybe get, five plays a game that had to play a lot in this past game, and they're going to be getting a lot more reps this coming week. So, a guy like Goldwire had to play a lot more reps than he would normally be accustomed to playing up front. So, what ends up happening to those guys, who are not used to playing 40 reps a game, 50 reps, they're going to have to do that. So in practice, it'll help throughout the week because they're going to be getting a ton of reps. And then obviously you're going to be getting some of these other guys, some younger guys in there too.
We'll go to John Lewis.
Coach, you touched on this a little bit last week, but I just want to get maybe an update here. What was the percentage of participation with your guys in the voting process, and what are your plans for tomorrow?
Yeah, what we did throughout the summer and as we're headed toward the season, what we made an aim to get everybody registered. We got our 100% of our guys registered to vote. And then we got everybody that was out of state. We got all their absentee vote ballots here. that came straight to our office here, so we were able to hand them to our guys here. And then obviously the local guys, the polls have been open, now I think we're in 3 weeks here in Kentucky. So these guys have had an opportunity to go out and vote. The actual number have voted. I don't know the number, but I know there are a few guys that are going to vote tomorrow, the local guys. So tomorrow these guys will be free. They won't be over here. They'll be free to go, handle that voting opportunity if for a few guys that need to do that. Like I said, the majority of our guys have already done that and have already, voted this year.
Go to Pat Jaggers, Mike Barber on deck.
Hey, Coach. If you look back at the 2019 season, one of your team's probably biggest strengths was its ability to respond to a tough loss. Now, if you look at this year, you guys have obviously struggled at times, but in your personal opinion, what do you think is the biggest difference between last year's team and this year's?
It's hard to say, really, the biggest difference. I think, last year we found ways to win some games in the fourth quarter. This year we have not. We've been in most of the games this year. Really, 3 of them I know were one-possession games. The Georgia Tech game, we're ahead by 1 point with 11 minutes to go. So that's 4 games, and then we won the other 2. Really, the Miami game was the one game that was kind of out of hand. So we've been in the games. We just have not closed them out. You think back to last year, we were able to beat Boston College on a field goal there with within a minute to go. We beat Wake Forest right there at the end of the game. There's 2 big games. We were able to close out Virginia last year at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. I think being able to close out games, I think is huge. I think for us this year, as you look, one of the things I think that stands out to me is the turnover margin. I think that's one of the things that we have not created very many turnovers, and in these losses we've had a lot of turnovers, and we had 3 Saturday. You look back to Notre Dame and Florida State, we didn't have any, and Florida State we had the 1 muff punt, but Georgia Tech, 0 for 3 in the turnover margin. So I think turnovers play a huge role in this year. The ability not to get turnovers and then, turning the ball over offensively. So I think that's probably the 2 biggest things, is closing out fourth quarters and then the turnover margin.
Mike Barber.
Coach.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about what you see from them in terms of their run defense. Obviously, they just signed a pretty productive group from Carolina. You had a ton of success, and Hawk did last year against them. What do you see in that matchup?
Yeah, I think first of all, they have tremendous length. As you look, they're based out of a 3-4 defense, so 3 down linemen. They're putting some bigger guys there, 310 at the nose, and then 280, 285 at the 2 D tackle spots. And then on the outside, they're 2 outside with a Snowden kid who's 6'7", that big length right there, and then Noah Taylor 6'5", and I think they try to keep everything inside. So they did a really good job of stopping that run. Really against a lot of the people they're playing. I think Wake Forest, even, they stopped them, and Wake busted out an 80-yard run down the sideline on a kind of a fluke play. Otherwise, they would have held them in check. I think, they've done a good job with that. I think, if you look at their defense, one of the things they have given up is a little bit of passing yards. I think just because they're bringing the safeties down and having those linebackers, that umbrella type defense, to really slow down the run. And obviously we like to run the ball. It's going to be imperative for us to be able to hit some plays in the passing game down the field. There's no question about it. You go back to this weekend, we got stymied early on. We started opening it up, throwing the ball, and we're able to move the football to get some points on the board. So, the thing that we have to do is, you feel like on most plays, you have to hit positive plays. Offensively, you can't really have a setback or a negative play because, now, you look up and it's 3rd and 12 or 14 or longer, and it's hard to pick those up offensively. And then all of a sudden you also feel like you got to score. We feel like we got to get points on the board. And if you look at the games this year where we've been able to get up early, get some confidence, get things rolling, I think that we've been able to bode well after we've been able to do that. It's hard to play from behind, and and we're quite frankly not good enough to do that right now. And we got to do a better job of getting up early in the game and getting some momentum.
Thank you.
Go to Michael McCammon, followed by Tim.
Hey, Coach, Michael McCammon from Cardinal Authority here. Couple things real quick on the COVID protocols. Monty Montgomery's on the depth chart that came out today. What's his status? And then second, there was news came out that Thurman Gathers has decided to opt out of the season. What's the story behind that, and and how does that impact the locker room?
Yeah, as far as Monty goes, we're still checking on the contact tracing part. He was not one of the positive guys, so we're checking on his contact tracing to seeing if there's anything there with that, within the rules of contact tracing. And then Gathers, he decided to opt out. I mean, he's had some ups and downs throughout his career here, for a lot of frustration, I think. Didn't play a whole lot Saturday, and really, just decided he wanted to pack it up. And and so it's unfortunate and for him, but he wants to move in another direction. So that's where we're headed with that. And like I've told our guys, we want guys that want to be here. You have to be 100% committed. You can't. This is not a sport where you can be half in, half out. I mean, you have to be 100% committed to do everything that you're asked to do. And all that does is give you a chance. And so that's kind of where we are with it. And I think our team, the guys that are here, that continue to work hard and move forward, and hopefully we'll get this thing rolling.
Tim?
Yeah, Scott, earlier in the year, you were talking about cross-training guys at different positions, kind of in anticipation of the kind of problems you had. Can you maybe go into a little more depth as to what that entailed and whether you're going to need some of those players to reinvent themselves this late in the year?
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on what position. So what offensive line wise, we try to let guys play tackle, guard, and guard center, those type things. So if you do have to move guys around on that side, we've had guys on defense, as you look at it, outside linebackers like OKK potentially could come in and play as a defensive end type position for us if we need some more depth right there. We've trained Goldwire to play defensive end and nose to be able to move him around a little bit more. And then also, some of your guys that play safety to be able to pull them down and be an outside linebacker. So, you tried to move guys around a little bit throughout the year to practice in some different positions. Obviously we think where they are is their best position. So when you do have to start moving guys around, then you're not going to be probably as good as you would have ordinarily. So what we're trying to do now is, even if a guy's a little bit younger, maybe hadn't played a lot of reps, but that's his position, he's used to playing that. You slide those guys in there. And so, the question earlier about this definitely gives us more time to maybe look at some other guys in some positions this week to see if they really help us at another spot. And so, that's some of the things we'll be doing throughout this week. It's a little bit more challenging, when you get to this point in the season and particularly this week, because now we got to practice tonight. I mean, so everything's happened really fast. So we'll see where we're at, by the end of the week, if we, got some guys to try different spots.
As a follow-up, have you had occasion to use any of your secondary people as linebackers or linebackers as down linemen?
Well, we have in the past, tried guys. Usually when you're doing this type of thing, it's like in the spring, and it's kind of an experiment. You're kind of seeing, hey, can he actually do it? Now we're sitting here in the season. It makes it a lot more challenging because, you want guys to feel comfortable in whatever spots that you move them down to. If you're moving a safety down the linebacker or a linebacker down to a defensive end spot, they still have to feel comfortable. I mean, and we're playing against guys that know what they're doing. You're playing against these talented players week in and week out. And so you don't want to get guys in there and they can't get it done. And so, again, we'll look at it this week and we'll see if there's any tweaking of positional movement. And see what we need to do, but again, it'll be as the week goes on. We'll see how it works.
Thank you.
Go to Russ Brown.
Yeah, Scott, a couple more things on the virus situation. Have you been able to ascertain with any degree of certainty where or how this originated first? And secondly, you may have made this clear and I didn't understand or missed it, but are the 9 players who missed the last game, are they the only ones right now that are going to miss Saturday?
Yes, I would think so right now, as far as those guys that missed this past weekend. To answer your question, as far as where it's originated from, it's hard to tell. I mean, who knows? We had the one player on Wednesday that was positive. I would assume, we're all assuming that the ones that were positive Friday night came from that. That's the only thing we can assume. There were D linemen. The one player on Wednesday was a scout team offensive lineman. So throughout the day and practice, maybe they got, some contact there. It's just hard to really tell and isolate exactly where it came from. That's kind of what we're assuming. And so, we've isolated those other guys. We feel, better about the containment of it. I think so often, as you guys have seen throughout the country, when one of the teams get it, and then you get 4 or 5 guys positive, the next thing you know, it jumps to 12 or to 18. I mean, we've kind of seen that over the last couple of months, from several programs throughout the year. And so we hope we've isolated the guys and with the contact tracing piece, and we've put them, isolation and not being a part of anything we've done here. And so hopefully we've stopped it, but we don't know. I mean, again, we're tested today. We're going to test again on Wednesday, and again, of course, on Friday, and we'll kind of see where it goes from this. But, we really don't know anything other than that.
To Ken Spencer.
Scott, with your all's offense, everybody knows what Javian and Tutu means to it. But on Saturday, it seemed like for the first time in a long time, Des Fitzpatrick was made a major impact for you guys. Was that really important to get him going?
Well, yeah, and certainly we got down 21-0. You got to start opening it up and throwing the football a little bit more. And he was able to make some big plays for us. It's not like we hadn't tried to get him involved more throughout the season. I mean, we've been opportunities and chances, and for whatever reason, just have not connected on some of those balls, and down the field or intermediate for that matter. And so, yeah, it was good to see him make plays out there Saturday. He had some huge impact in that game, and got us back in the game. And so, obviously he's a big weapon on the outside there, and with Hawkins and Tutu and Cunningham and Ford and, some of these guys making plays. And it's great to have another one out there that can make plays for us. And, he's got a lot of strengths. He's a tall guy. He runs well, and he does a good job after the catch. And so, hopefully these last few games, he'll be a guy that can get heavily involved and make a big impact in our offense.
Cameron.
Hey, Scott, you already talked a little bit about Derek Dorsey and Ramon Purrier, but I want to talk specifically on Ramon. He's a guy who showed a lot of flashes last year, played pretty well on Saturday. You see this as a chance for him to get some good reps for his future as well?
Yeah, I think we basically, all those guys, they got an opportunity. I think those three in particular, with Derek Dorsey, Zach Edwards, Purrier, and those guys have really got more playing time, and that's a great chance for them to really show what they can do, and a great opportunity. Really what it shows, I think, for these guys that really hadn't got a lot of reps, and Ramon's probably gotten more than Dorsey and Edwards probably throughout the year. But it really shows what have you been doing throughout the season, like during practice. What's your prep been like? Because now you get an opportunity to go out there and show what you can do. So, and I thought those guys did a really nice job. I think particularly, Ramon and Dorsey. Those guys really showed a lot of flash out there, and hopefully that'll help as we move forward and we start getting some of these guys back. So now you got more depth right there, and you feel like you got guys that you can put in and make plays. And so. But he's a guy that's shown last year, as a freshman, and we thought, man, this guy's got a chance to be pretty good for us. And then this year he's played a lot more, and I think he'll continue to play and, have a big impact as we move forward.
Jody Demling.
Hey, Coach, Jody from Cardinal Authority. To go back to Saturday for one more time, was there ever a thought of postponing, or were you close enough? I know there's parameters of when you can postpone. I assume you guys didn't get close to those, or that would have been talked about maybe more.
No, we talked about it, and there was certainly a thought of that. I think it comes down to, do you have enough players at a certain position? And I think I've heard this from several schools throughout the country whenever games have been canceled. If you don't have enough players at a certain position, you can't play. I mean, and particularly O-line and D-line are really those spots. You just can't go manufacture, big guys to put in there. Either you have them or you don't. And, so we looked at the numbers defensive line wise to say, can we play? And we had enough. We had 5. And we said, we'll go out and play. You just cross your fingers that nobody gets dinged out there during the game, and we're able to finish the game with all those guys. And, because then it becomes player safety. And So we did not reach that number where we didn't think it was safe, not safe for those guys to go play. And so obviously you want to go play. We want to play these games. The rest of the guys on the team have worked hard to go out and play. And so, we're going to try to get those games in. And so, for this week, again, we'll see how it goes throughout the week. Hopefully we got the same kind of bodies, if not more, as we move forward, and we'll have enough to go play. And that's kind of where we are. It's we all know what we're dealing with, and it's a year like no other. And things pop up every single day, and so you just have to roll with it and deal with it and move forward the best you can.
We're going to take two more, Gary Graves, then Mike Blankenbaker.
Yeah. Coach, given the situation that you have with the players affected by the virus and other challenges that it presents, how has that altered your view about players seeking mental health counseling, to deal with the isolation and maybe some of the fears about the disease?
Well, I think it's certainly the mental health aspect to me has been at the forefront all the way back in whenever we shut down. I think, you put people in isolation. I mean, we're all human social people, and we're supposed to be out and about and be around people. And I think that in itself mentally is a big time challenge. And then you talk about athletes, Division I athletes that are used to going out and performing and playing and lifting and running and all the things that they do and competing. And to take some of that away from them this past summer, I thought the mental health part was huge. And we as coaches try to really focus on that more than anything. And then as we've learned more about the virus and how it's affecting young people, which hadn't had a great of impact health-wise on young people as it has maybe older, vulnerable people health-wise. I think it's eased the fears of the young people. Even the ones that have had it here throughout the summer and they've all come back and done fine and been healthy. So I think that part of it's kind of eased their fear with that. I think early on it was certainly a fear there, but I think as we've moved forward with it and the way we're treating it, it's a lot better now with that. But but the isolation part is a real thing. So like these guys, it's 2 weeks and they're in their rooms and they're, it's tough mentally on them. You think about these guys, they're not only trying to play football, they're trying to get an education too. There's just a lot going on for these young people. And then with the social media stuff, it's just so much things that are going on, and we talk to these guys so much about that. And so we just try to be supportive with them, that we're doing everything we can for them, and they'll get through this.
As a follow-up, has that changed your perception about counseling for players? Being a former player, and that before it was kind of seen maybe as a weakness. Now do you kind of see that as a necessary component for coaching and for players now?
Absolutely, think it is. It's so much more now. The mental health of young people. I'm not even talking just athletes. I'm talking about young people in general. As you talk about the things that they're having to go through, and I think social media to a negative effect for these young people is huge. And we know, I got 3 kids, teenagers, and they're on their phones looking at that stuff all the time, and so are our players. Some of the first things they do is come in and look at their phone, and so a lot of that social media stuff is negative impact. They're feeding their minds, and I don't like that. And then you put the pressures of school and now athletes, sports. So absolutely, I think it's something that we've looked at more as a society and as as sports. With the counseling that we do have and the people that are available, and we're adding more people as we speak at all universities because it's such a thing that has to be addressed, and there's no question about it. So yeah, I would 100% say that it is real, and it is something that has now looked at a little bit different maybe than when I was playing, that I was growing up in that. Now it's something that is always available to our guys, and I think should be available.
Last question
Coach
from Mike
Satterfield. Yeah, Coach. Two freshmen that are on the depth, that are on the roster: Jared Dawson, Henry Bryant. Will you take a look at using them this week and seeing if they can contribute?
Well, I think Jared Dawson for sure. That we'll take a look on him. He's a guy that's been on the scout team most of the year. He gives you more size there at the nose, so he's one that we'll certainly be taking a look at. Henry is not available right now, and so I don't think he'll be available this week.
Coach, thank you for your time today.
All right, thanks, guys.
Gentlemen, thanks for joining us for today's conference.